talking about this one. The north side of the Big Island has consistently been within that cone, and we're going to show you that in just a moment. Right now, actually, I want to take you back to that. Winds at 65 miles an hour. So at latest update, the winds have gone down a bit. This has been downgraded to a tropical storm, but still, it is going to continue that northwest movement, and it is going to get close to the Hawaiian Islands. When we talk about just how close, you remember in previous model forecasts, we really had the Big Island and the Hawaiian Island chain right in the middle of that cone. At this point, not so much. It's staying off towards the north. So the trend has been to take Guillermo further off towards the north. That would be good news. There is still time to fine-tune this forecast. We're looking at Wednesday morning for this to get closer to the Hawaiian Islands. Obviously, if you're on the north side of those islands, these are areas where you're still going to really need to keep an eye on where this is going, because any change could bring you some bigger impacts. Here's the tropical storm force wind probabilities. And again, getting closer to the north side of the Big Island, as well as some of the other islands. So if you live in those northern shores, this is where you're going to see some large waves and perhaps some other effects depending on how close this storm gets. When we look at the rain, notice the heaviest rain staying on the north side, but as we get into those Hawaiian Islands by late week, we'll see some heavy rain on some of the higher elevations and also on those northern locations, those northern beaches. So notice 2 to 3 inches here on the north side of the Big Island. Of course, the high elevations getting up to 5 inches. Heavy rain and possible flooding late Tuesday night and Wednesday for Hilo. Wind gusts to 40 miles an hour, along with high surf and rip currents. So David, will be dangerous out there on the. All right, thank you, Jennifer. We still have alerts in play, red flag warnings for parts of Idaho, California, Oregon, and up into Washington. And we are looking at more heat and dry weather. Really, dryness is going to be the big thing in the forecast for a lot of these areas. So where you'd love to see some pouring rain and cloudy days, not necessarily in the cards for all those active wildfires. 108 Vegas, 92 for Salt Lake City, 95 up in Lewiston. And notice all of these areas, or just about all of them where you saw the active fires, we've got sunshine, so we've got dry weather in the cards as we go through the day tomorrow and then again into Wednesday. So unfortunately, Mother Nature not giving us any soaking rains, Dave, which I'm sure anybody in those fire zones would love to see. All right, 53 minutes past the hour. I'm here in the lab with hurricane specialist Carl Parker, and Guillermo is a storm that folks in Hawaii, headed to Hawaii, have been watching throughout the week and still need to watch closely. Yeah, you know, we're paying a lot of attention to this. You remember Isel came into Hawaii as a tropical storm and caused a tremendous amount of tree damage, a lot of power outages because there are so many trees in Hawaii. So even a more modest storm can cause a lot of problems. Right now, it's a 65-mile-per-hour storm. We think it's probably going to continue to weaken. And in fact, I want to show you the visible satellite picture and talk about one of the reasons for that. Look at the lack of cloud there to the west of this thing. So there is an awful lot of sinking dry air out there indicated by that that orange shading. So that's certainly not going to help with its strengthening. But then on top of that, there's really strong wind now in the upper levels just off to the north of that circulation that's not really going to back away that much as this thing is moving in that direction. So the shear is going to increase, and that too should keep down the high end potential for this thing. So the shear, the dry air, two major opponents that this thing's going to be up against. Exactly right. And so what we're thinking is it's probably going to be a low-end tropical storm, just sort of grazing the islands, moving along the north side. Tropical storm force winds probabilities not very high, about 10 to 20 to 30% there across the island. So that means maybe some stronger wind, but at this point it doesn't look like a real high probability. And then here's a look at the wave action. Now this could actually be very good news for those big wave surfers on the North Shore there. They're grabbing the boards right now, saying, Carl, give me good news. Yeah, so we've got 10 to 12-foot swells coming in on the north side of the islands coming up by the middle of the week as the storm is approaching. Could be some heavier rain as well, and that's certainly going to mean some potential for some flooding with all that mountainous terrain there in Hawaii. All right, and then we head out to the other side of the world where we are talking about a much, much stronger storm. This is incredible. This is Super Typhoon Saudalor, and the wind's now 180 miles per hour. So this is a rare beast. They generally don't get that strong, certainly not in the Atlantic basin. That's a really rare thing. They do get stronger in the western Pacific, but that's still on the very high end. And there's a closer look, and look at the structure
of this thing. You see how well formed it is, the symmetry there, perfect little sort of donut.
Yeah,
shape.
and I heard Mark Elliott say earlier that it almost looks like the hurricane symbol that we use. You know, it looks so picture perfect.
It does, and notice also that the eye was initially a little bigger and then began to tighten up a little bit. That's part of why it's getting a little bit stronger. We've got an amazing visible satellite loop. Actually, before that, an amazing infrared picture, and this comes from the Veer satellite. Look how well defined that is right there. Isn't that something?
I mean, almost exact looking, you know, like a perfect circle.
Yeah, that's that stadium effect. You see a little bit of a slope right there. Also, notice the line right there?
Yeah.
That's called a cloud cliff, and nobody knows why that exists.
Interesting.
We've seen that a few times on typhoons, and it's a complete meteorological mystery.
So for people at home watching, what happens within that cloud cliff? Or is it just the clouds are going to lower elevations?
Just that there is a sharp line right along the very top edge of the highest clouds there, and it's very linear, and we don't know exactly.
Well, there you go at home. Impress your friends.
It's really something. But what we do know about is this eye wall replacement cycle, really profound here in the visible satellite picture. So this is a long, high-resolution, absolutely beautiful satellite loop.
I was watching that earlier. I wanted to make it my screensaver, but we don't really have those anymore, do we?
And here's the forecast. Now, this could be a very dangerous storm. We're thinking it's got potential to come towards Taiwan as possibly the equivalent of a Category 3 or 4 hurricane. So it could be a really big deal over here.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be watching this one. Thank you so much, Carl. Hey, Dave.